Can't believe we live in an era where meatloaf is viral news. No, it's because if people are so brain rotted that you can just be like, look, Brickin', and they're like, haha, that's so funny. Because there's nothing good on the internet except for shit like that, you know? So when you finally see the brick and you're like, yeah, hell yeah. And it's funny to you because everything else is like, yo, here, don't forget that in this part of the world, this terrible thing happens. And you're like, ah, you know, you're like getting zapped and inundated with bad news all the time. So when you see the brick and you're like, yes, yes, because it's like, it's good in a sea of bad, you know? It's just like stupid, simple humor. It doesn't exhaust you, you know? I think like, yeah, it's simple. That's what I mean. It's simple. Brickin', funny word, picture along with it. Haha. It's all people want right now, dude. It's all they want. It's all I want. Although when I see it, I'm just like, yeah, it's just meatloaf. I do like meatloaf though. I do like a good one. It's icon cheeseburger all over again. I mean, I think a lot of the biggest memes are things that don't have really a big underlying joke. It's just like a very simple one-off thing where you could say one word and people are like, oh, I know what that one word is. Because people love reference humor. Because the easiest thing to do, yeah, it's E all over again, right? 6'7" is this generation's E. It's literally what it is. Remember when I said a while back, I was like, hey, a lot of like current like kid humor and zoomer humor and stuff is literally just millennial humor of today. It's the same it's related to the age group that you are because you think stuff like that is funny when you're at that age. It's not unique to each generation. Every generation had their stupid you know? And people are like, no, it's unique. with unique to this group. And no, it's the same dude. I don't think people change. Well, actually, no, I think people are changing, but like they're getting worse. Can I tell you my conspiracy theory for the world? My conspiracy theory for the world right now? I think people, their development is getting more and more stunted over time. More and more stunted over time because of a few things. But one of the big ones, everyone treating people in their 20s like they're still kids. And people in their 20s not doing major milestone that they used to do back in the day. For example, I'm not saying I think you need to do this to develop, but people used to have their kids by like 25. And then in their late 20s and 30s, they were living a full adult family life, right? And enjoying that at that age. And now I feel like a lot of people are like in their 20s, they're just frozen. They're just frozen completely, right? I think there's a lot of stuff like that in this world. Did you hear about how we just stopped teaching kids how to read properly, and so a lot of Americans are barely literate now? Oh, I've been new. I've been new. Yeah, no, they just don't teach kids how to read anymore. But I think even for a while, even in the millennial generation, I think a lot of younger millennials weren't taught to read properly either. They were taught to read in a basic way, but they weren't taught beyond a certain point. So I think it was starting like, you know, back then, personally. I think there were always, you know, good chunks of people that never really learned. Yeah, but I think that's more and more over time. For sure. So I don't know about you, but my parents were not mature or developed or ready to have kids in any way. How do you think the world has kept turning, dude? You learn on the job. And I know, that's literally parenting. You learn on the job. You learn on the job and do your best. No one's ready for it. It's something you learn as you go. The only way you kind of can be ready is if you're like me and you babysat and took care of a billion younger family members over the years. I've taken care of newborns many times. I've taken care of toddlers many times. Every age range, you know? So maybe, yeah, I could be like, oh, I might know what I'm getting into going into it. Even then, it's different when you have to do it 24/7. Like, no one's used to that until they just do it. Yeah, that's right. That's why the first child is always like, yeah, you call the sacrificial first child because that's the one the parents are learning on. But yeah, I think it's just different. It's just different. No one's really like prepared or matured enough for it. Having kids and having to be there for them and having to become a parent is what matures a lot of people. Some of them don't. It doesn't work on everyone. But I think those types of experiences are what make you do better or mature. It's going through experiences, you know? I don't think you can just go through life working a job and just arbitrarily become mature enough to have a child in most cases, honestly. So I just think like, because everyone's doing everything later and later and later, they're just so stunted. I don't know. I always say this. I was reading when I was like 2. I wasn't reading like a full novel, you know, or crazy like that. But I was reading when I was like 2, and so did almost all of my cousins in my family. Everyone, at least by 3, was able to read like a full small kids book. Because kids that young can learn this. But I've a lot of family in education, things like that. A lot of people are saying that when kids get to kindergarten, a lot of them just have no idea how to read. And I'm thinking to myself, can a teacher teach them when they're that age? Yes. But don't you lose out on early development if you don't learn these things early during these like key windows to develop your brain? don't you lose out on so much? It's kind of like how if you never learned how to speak early and you learn how to speak later, and if no one speaks to you, there's some level of stuntedness that occurs there, right? I think the same is with reading, the same is with everything, right? Like everyone should try to be learning how to do everything as early as possible. People who learn to play an instrument early are like almost always destined to be way better than people who learn it later, because there's just something in that learning it when you're very spongy and very young, you know? But I think my conspiracy theory is that this carries over to adulthood. I think, you know, yeah, kids are learning later and later, which is a problem, but I think adults also pushing all the milestones back for good reason. They're doing it for like financial reasons and career reasons and stuff, which is totally understandable. But I think because of that, it's genuinely stunting people's maturity, you know? And again, like not always in a way that's like fully their fault. Like the world is this way, you know? But I think that's kind of the side effect. That's my theory.